So a lot of you guys were asking me to do my full review of the iPhone 5S, but since there are so many reviews on YouTube already, I'm going to do mine a little bit different. I'm going to talk about my experience during the 2 weeks of using the 5S and whether if you should get it. So let's go ahead and get started. First, I just want to say that this is actually my first iPhone. Before this phone, I was using the HTC One, and before that, I was using the Nokia Lumia 920. So this is my first iPhone that I have ever owned. So the previous two phones that I was using are both extremely high quality premium phones, and going to the iPhone 5S, this did not disappoint me. The solid aluminum build of the 5S just feels excellent to hold in the hand. One feature that I use the most on this device is probably the Touch ID fingerprint sensor, because I have to use my fingerprint to unlock my device every single time. And this works very well. You can go to settings and add up to 5 different fingers, and this almost never fails to recognize my fingerprint, so this will work pretty much every time you want to unlock your device. And after unlocking, you will enter iOS 7. At first, I wasn't a huge fan of iOS 7 simply because of the design. It's a lot different from iOS 6. I just had to get used to it. So now after almost 2 weeks, I'm pretty familiar and got used to iOS 7. And the feature that I use every day on iOS 7 is Control Center. Without going into the settings application, I can toggle settings, change brightness, play music, change volume, and access different shortcut applications. So Control Center is probably the best feature on iOS 7, in my opinion. The icons are very colorful, flat, and simplistic looking. Speaking of colorful icons, the display on this 4-inch screen just looks superb. Even though this does not have the highest resolution screen, and before the iPhone 5S I was using the HTC One, which was one of the highest resolution screens in the market, with over 400 pixels per inch, and the iPhone 5S only has about 320 pixels per inch, but I honestly did not notice a difference in terms of pixel density. The color just pops out at you with accurate and vivid colors, but one thing that I wish Apple would change in the future is their screen size. Nowadays, every phone is over 4.5 inches, around that, or maybe 5 inches. My preferred screen size is probably around 5 inches. The HTC One is the perfect screen size for me with 4.7 inches. And I don't mind using bigger screens. I actually ordered the Samsung Galaxy Note 3 and hopefully it's coming soon to my mail. And that has a 5.6 inch display, I believe, so a huge display. But the iPhone 5S only has a 4-inch display, so this is my disappointment of this device. Just wish that they would increase the screen size. But right now, what's great about the 4-inch display is, of course, just like what Apple advertises, you can use your thumb to touch all 4 corners of the screen. So I just wish that Apple would increase their screen size in their next generation iPhone, preferably the iPhone 6. My experience with the 5S has been very smooth and fluid. Mainly it's because of iOS 7. Now I have not experienced any lag or dropped frame rates here. Just a few crashes here and there. Crashed many times on Twitter. I'm not sure if it's because of the application or iOS 7.0.2. iOS 7 is overall very simple to use, very easy to learn. Another reason why the 5S is so smooth and quick is because of the new processor. The Apple A7 1.3 GHz dual-core 64-bit processor. Yes, this is actually the first phone with the 64-bit processor instead of a 32-bit processor. So you should be able to play all the high-end, intense graphic games in the App Store. Another great experience about the 5S is the application selections. You can download so many applications that will be compatible with your 5S and has a great user interface for your 5S. From games to utilities to weather applications to fitness applications, you can download pretty much anything you need on the App Store. So my overall application experience has been enjoyable. Another part of the phone that I have to emphasize and focus on is the camera. Because just a few years ago, nobody really cares or focuses about the phone camera because they all suck. But nowadays, we all have very high expectations of the cell phone cameras, and the iPhone 5S does a very good job. So here are some pictures that I took with the 5S, and these are all HDR photos, which means that it's gonna take 2 photos and each photo has a different exposure, and it's going to blend these 2 photos together to have a more balanced exposure of the picture. So you can enable HDR photo feature inside your camera. So these are all HDR photos, and in my opinion they look pretty good, right? It's comparable to many other point and shoot cameras. It's of course way better than my first camcorder or my first digital camera that I owned, and it's even comparable to some DSLRs. So if you're a huge photo person and you take pictures every single day and you don't want to carry around your digital camera or your heavy camera gear, then you can just use your iPhone 5S because it takes great pictures or photos. Not to mention the video 1080p HD quality also looks amazing. Enough talking about all the good features or the pros. I also have a few cons and a few things that I dislike about the 5S. The speakers on the 5S isn't really that good in my opinion. Maybe it's because I was using the HTC One boom sound speakers, which basically blows everything out of the water in terms of cell phone speakers. I mean, the speakers on the 5S isn't bad by any means. Maybe it's even better than most Samsung speakers on their Galaxy devices, even though this can go up to a pretty loud volume, but everything just sounds muffled together. It's very tinny and the speaker is just at the bottom, not a very good placement because I can easily cover it up with my hands. So the speakers on the 5S needs some improvement. I know I said this is one of the best design phones in the market because of the aluminum finish, but I did notice that after using this phone non-stop for maybe 20-30 minutes, we all know that aluminum conducts heat, so this will become really hot after using it for a while. And same thing if you put this inside your pocket and go outside. I mean, I live in Canada right now and today is October 5th and the temperature right now is 15 degrees. So it's not a hot weather and it's not that cold. But if I go outside in winter times and it's maybe 0 degrees or -5 degrees, the phone is going to be extremely cold. So this is a problem with aluminum phones. Either it gets really hot or really cold unless you stay in room temperature. I just have a few more dislikes about the 5S. Another one related to the aluminum body is that the back of the 5S is easily scratchable, just like the iPhone 5. I had a few paper clips inside my pocket, and for some dumb reason I placed my 5S into that pocket. And after a few hours of sitting down, standing up, doing a bunch of movements, I took the 5S out and I noticed that there were some small scratches on the back. Just some minor scratches. So having a case would be a good choice for your 5S. Another con that I think I mentioned before is the screen size. Even though the screen resolution, the color, saturation, contrast is excellent on the 5S, but the 4-inch screen is just a little bit too small for me. So I'm guessing that for Apple to compete with many other smartphones, they have to increase their screen size in their upcoming generation iPhones. And the last con about my 5S is the operating system. I know I said that I really enjoy using iOS 7. It's a really fast, fluid experience, but there still are some dislikes about iOS 7. Now this is pretty obvious. I think that you probably have heard of this before or heard of me talking about this before, and that is the lack of customization on iOS 7. Even though iOS 7 does have a few features such as control center and some user interface changes, but these are just some features added to iOS 7. You still cannot download tweaks, widgets, icon packs, themes, apps to change your system settings or things like that. Seems like that you are still locked inside the iOS 7, so you cannot really customize your phone other than changing your wallpapers or moving your icons around. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Let's try to reach 500 likes for this video. And if you haven't, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. Actually, down there, there's a button down there. And I know the sky is pretty back there. And yeah, this basically concludes my video. I'll see you guys in my next video. Have a nice day.